friends, I have an awesome Schumann resonance and astrology energy video for you today. So let's take a look at this energy. Here is the image that showed up at the volcanic explosion. Do you see where this green line is here? That is the moment that the explosion happened. And it's so fascinating because the image that resulted on the chart looks like energy exploding upward and then over here vibrating out, across the Pacific Ocean, because this volcanic eruption also had this explosive event at the top of the water that emanated out for, significant distance to all the continents, right, and islands. Even here out on the West Coast, we felt it. I know it was felt in Japan and Alaska. It was an incredible effect, okay? So it's interesting because the Schumann resonance, you can see here these Hertz levels. The Schumann resonance happens to be at the same hertz as human brain waves. I talk about this a lot in my beginner playlist, and that's part of the reason why I look at this as a map of human consciousness. Okay, but there's a lot going on here with where we can correlate brain waves with the activities on the chart. For example, there were three sort of explosive images associated with this volcanic eruption on the chart. One here at 20 hertz, one about 13, 14 hertz, and one about 7.86. This is the natural frequency of Earth. So to me, this was a real Earth-oriented event. You see the energy in here? Clearing the expanded light. The event supported the natural unfolding of the soul mission of Earth and humanity. Okay, so I'm doing a science spirit interpretation here, which is what I always do. Okay, so here at 13, 14 hertz, this image occurred at the high end of the alpha brainwave range, okay? And so this is at the high end of our brain hertz for observation of the world around us. And we have this big image here that is like a shadow-like image that shows up on the chart. As I'm looking at it, it looks quite devilish in nature to me. And then here, this second image is at the 20 hertz range. This corresponds with brainwaves at the mid-beta brainwave level. And this is about complex thinking, analytical thinking, very, very engaged with our thoughts. And look at this. It almost looks like a diamond shape or the mirror image of a volcano, somewhat like the thumbnail that I'm using for this video. So it looks on the chart like there's a lot of energy here around our thoughts and clearing our thoughts possibly with this volcanic eruption. Now, interestingly, right here where there's a block of white resonance, this is the exact moment where Mercury went retrograde. And what do we do during Mercury retrograde? We have an opportunity to review communications, to review thoughts, to review our thinking and thought processes. And apparently it was quite powerful this year because boom, just a few hours later. Now let's look at the next part of the chart. Okay, so here's that Mercury retrograde. Now, what's really interesting is just about a day before that, we had the U.S. Supreme Court ruling about mandates being unconstitutional. Okay, the big ruling was ruled unconstitutional. That was a huge, huge event globally. Why? Because the United States is the vanguard of freedom. That's our sole mission. Okay, as a country. And so this is so powerful, isn't it? Now, these other images here, I talked all about this in my last video about the astrology and the Schumann resonance energy, and that's called the weekly review. I'll link it below. So you have mandates unconstitutional. Now we're reviewing our thinking with Mercury retrograde, and then boom. Okay? This is a sudden explosive event, very Uranus oriented, and it really, it could signal a shift in direction now. That's how I am interpreting it. What I want to do with you is I want to look at the astrology at this time. Okay, so this is 7 p.m., so this is a little over an hour before the volcanic eruption happened. And what you can see here is that Mars was exactly opposing the Moon, directly across from each other on the astrology wheel. There was a lot of tension here between two things. Number one, fiery Mars energy, action, and Mars in Sagittarius, action related to the future. It was opposing the Moon, our emotions in Gemini, our thinking, our emotions related to all the thoughts going on in our head. Wow, doesn't that mirror what was on the Schumann? Now, what are our thoughts about? We can look over here and see Mercury's retrograde. I discussed this on the weekly review in detail, so I'll give you a thumbnail here. These are our thoughts about Saturn structures, Aquarius, the innovative and new. So here's energy for implementing the future. Here's our thoughts and talking about what future structures are going to be like, okay? And it's exactly squaring Uranus. And in the last video, I showed you that the Moon had become conjunct Uranus and was squaring these two bodies. So what happens is the Moon was with Uranus. It was very concerned. Our emotions were very concerned about the shape of these future structures. And so there was a lot of thinking about it and communicating about it. So what happens is the Moon carried that energy forward because that was a major aspect. So it still had that with it as it went forward to oppose Mars. Then what happened? When the energy of our emotions about the future and our thoughts about the future opposed Mars in the energy of the future, boom, as the Moon moved off by 1 degree, the volcano explodes. I mean, it's incredible. And I just talked about this in my last video, that I've been noticing that there can be an important energetic expression at the aspect, but that it can also, the energy can also be expressed as the faster moving planet moves off of the aspect, right within that 1st degree. Okay, so you see here, not only has the Moon moved off of the exact opposition, but now look, it's at 24. And what else is at 24? Follow the green line, the Sun. What does this mean for the energies? Well, this green line represents a quincunx, and two quincunxes, when the top of the quincunx is 60 degrees apart, it forms a yod. So a quincunx can be an arm of a yod. A yod points to where God is focused in the astrological energies. So sort of the main purpose of the divine in that moment. So a quincunx is an important aspect. It says to us, hey, this is worth taking a look at. There's something potent and special here. And so when you look at the Moon, quincunx Sun, what do we see? Well, you see the Sun is 2 degrees from Pluto. Now, my last video on the astrology of node data from January 3rd and 4th, I went into big detail about the story of the Pluto and Venus energies of the moment. So with the Sun conjunct Pluto now, this is the energy here of big destruction. And this is possibly one of the most powerful examples of that you could think of, that we have literally tangibly here in front of us. I talked about the energy of destruction in that video on no data from January 3rd and 4th. But what is that about? Well, Plutonian energy is what I use to do soul retrievals. Why? Well, what this energy is about is going to the heart of the matter. This energy is able to ignore any illusions, to just blow past them. It's not distracted by any of that. It gets straight to the heart of any matter to find the core divinity within. And when it connects with that core divinity, the soul aspect within, i.e. the sun, boom, everything around the soul aspect disintegrates. And then the soul light, the divinity, rises upward, kind of like the rising upward of the volcanic energy. I mean, it's so potent and powerful that it just amazes me right now. Okay? Ooh. You may remember that at the November 19th lunar eclipse, the sun had highlighted Pluto from way over here. Okay, the sun was in Scorpio, and it was sextile to Pluto. Well, now the sun is kind of completing that union by coming up, being and joining with Pluto, which is going to happen soon. So this is part of the explosive dynamic of the energies. Now let's continue to move backwards in time, because we're looking for the 20 degrees aspects that are important here. Why? Because Neptune's here at 20 in the sign of Pisces, which is all of that illusion, shadow, but also brilliant insights, okay? And it goes very well with the sun right up next to Pluto, and it goes very well with all this emotional angst over our thoughts about the structures of the future and the energy of where we are heading, right? Because, well, let's get to that when we find the 20-degree point. So we're going to continue to go backwards in time to January 14th, but just a little earlier, 6 hours ahead of the explosion. What do we see? As we're moving backwards through time, moving the moon backwards, you see that just before the explosion, the moon at 15 Gemini came into quincunx with Venus at 15 Capricorn. Again, the quincunx being an arm of a yod. And so what is this about? Now our emotions are very focused on our thoughts about what we value. We've already been having those thoughts revolve around future structures. But with the quincunx with Venus in Capricorn, we can see that those thoughts are specifically focused on our thoughts and feelings about what is the true value here. What is the true value related to our government, how we are governed, how we govern ourselves, and the energy of that moving forward, and the shape of that, the structure of that moving forward. And we're bothered by the illusions that are leading us to think like, what is going on here? This is what the sun conjuncting Pluto helps us see straight through. But let's go back a little bit further to January 13th. And what you see here Okay, so what you see here's Mercury at 10 degrees. Here's Uranus at 10 degrees. They're in an exact square. But while they are square, this is at, you can't see that, 3:30 on the 13th. While they're square, and an hour later at 4:30, you can see Mercury has now gone retrograde. Okay? And I'm not doing it to the minutes here because we don't need to get that exact for this story. Okay, so now Mercury's retrograde at 10 degrees, opposing Uranus. Again, not only are we concerned because of this square with Uranus about the changes for the future in our structures, Saturn, but now we're reviewing all of that before this great explosion happens on the 13th, just as we saw in the Schumann charts. Let's go back a little further, and we're going to go back to January 10th. What do we see here? Okay, I'm going to go to 8:30 a.m. because this is when the first hour of Mars, the Sun, and Neptune all being at 20 degrees. So the Sun and Mars were at 20 degrees, one sign away. Mars was square Neptune, so they're kind of having a fight there. The Sun is sextile Neptune, so the Sun is supporting Neptune. And the Sun and Mars are one sign apart. So they're supporting each other or hidden from each other. Now, what does this do? And let me show you what happened in the Schumann resonance at this time. Oh, this is when there was no data available. So you know what I think? I think there was something ugly here. That's what I think. Because you saw what the explosion looked like, okay? Look at this, okay? This is not nice looking, right? When I saw that, I was like, whoa, what is that? Well, here was the initiating energy to that shape. To that shape in my view. Why? Let's go to the astrology. Okay, here's why. Here's the power, Mars in Sagittarius, powering the future. Here's the Sun in Capricorn, shining a light on our governing structures. Here's Pluto. Pluto's going to find the divinity and nothing will stop him. Okay? He will unveil the divinity in this process. Venus is reviewing how she feels about what the value is here. How she feels about it, what she thinks about it. She's reviewing the whole thing. The Sun is supporting Neptune to have a brilliant soul-level insight to cut through the illusion because the Sun is holding hands with Pluto, which is the key power for moving through illusion to find the gem. Neptune is in square with Mars, so they're kind of having a little battle. That's kind of how squares feel to me. Why are they having a battle? I think the reason why is because Neptune is in Pisces. And let's face it, any of you who are a Pisces will know what I mean when you say this, or any of you who have strong Neptune influences in your chart. It can be easy to get lost in the shadowlands. It can be easy to get lost in the daydream without your feet on the ground. It can be easy to get distracted, okay? And now you have Jupiter has entered Pisces. So this has amplified these energies. And as Jupiter moves through, it'll amplify them even more. Okay, so I think the battle here is that Mars wants to move forward, but it's hard to move forward when you're like, wait, if I move this way, I see this, but is that real or is that an illusion? Right? Because Mars wants to charge forward, but if he's charging forward into a dense fog bank, you don't know what the next step will bring. So this was a very powerful effect. There's a lot of angst here. And part of that angst is coming from this. Look at this. You see the moon here at 0 degrees of Taurus and the North Node at 0 degrees of Gemini. So these two are, it's called semi-sextile. They're one sign apart. And so it's a little hard for them to see each other at the moment because they're so close, but yet so far. So when this true node, the North Node, moves into Taurus, it's really about a soul-level mission of how do we want our life on Earth to look, and the expression of that. But we're both at 0 degrees here now, the North Node, the head of the dragon, and the moon. And so it's almost like this calming, still effect. It's a little bit of a cold feeling. So I think that the image on the chart for this period of missing data, given this sort of Neptune-Mars fight going on, and the sun supporting Neptune to see through the ugliness, through the illusion, to get to the heart of the matter, I'm guessing that there was something revealed here about what that ugliness was. And then, just 5 days later, boom, the volcano blows. Woo! It was big, big, big energies. This is very dramatic. I'm looking forward to seeing what is unveiled next. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.